and I wanted to cry because I felt like an idiot. But from that moment on, I have primarily shopped secondhand.
You're listening to the Sustainability Viking. In this episode, our guest is Telma Huld Jóhannesdóttir, who is an Icelandic actress and an activist. In the first half, we'll talk about becoming vegan, saying no to fast fashion, and ideas for a more sustainable film industry. In the second half, we'll discuss climate anxiety, the future of government, and ongoing positive changes for sustainability.
Telma, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Great to hear. So, first of all, how are you doing in these unprecedented times, COVID?
I've been pretty good. It's been all right, actually. The situation in Iceland has been much less severe than in many other places. Now we barely have any restrictions, really. So we wear masks, but we can go out to dinner, and we can, there's even theater shows now, and I've been kind of almost working through all of this last year, since the film industry in Iceland didn't shut down. So I've been very lucky, and I'm not complaining. I'm not in a bad spot. I've been busy, and yeah.
All right, great to hear. Sounds like you've been keeping busy and haven't been impacted too much by the situation.
No, especially when I compare myself to friends that are living abroad and I have experienced being in a lockdown for months and months and months. No, I have nothing to complain about right now.
All right, great. First of all, the reason why I chose you to be the first guest of the show is because I've always admired your passion for sustainability and passion and also action. You've really taken action when it comes to this. And my first question to you is, what does sustainability mean to you?
Well, it means choices that are being made knowingly. What's that word in English?
Consciously?
Yes, conscious choices. I think for me, when I was just a teenager, kind of figuring out the world, and I'm very passionate about things. That's just the way I am. And if I feel something, I really feel it, and I go into it, and that's what happened for me with eating meat, for example, and with fast fashion, things like that. That I looked into, saw that something was kind of crooked, but it's all put out in this shiny image of just buy this and just go do it and it'll all be fine. But then when you kind of look behind the veil, it's a really ugly world. So yeah, conscious choices.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like to you it really matters to be a responsible consumer.
Yeah, and look for the, making the effort of checking your own just views of the world, and challenging them regularly.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest change that you made?
It would probably be the first time when I years ago when I quit eating meat. But that was a very easy choice for me. I know that some people have gone vegan or stopped eating meat, and it's been a really difficult process for them. But for me, that it wasn't. I never actually liked meat too much. So for me, it was kind of like coming out of the closet as a vegetarian. I'd been one all my life, and it just wasn't making sense. But then a few years ago, I made another conscious choice of only shopping for secondhand clothing and that choice has actually been really interesting because it's like bled out to other areas of my life. So now when I shop for hi. Now when I shop for furniture, for example, I go buy secondhand rather than buying new.
What was your motivation for going meat free?
It was a weird, it had very little with sustainability to do, unfortunately. I actually never really liked meat. I didn't like cooking it when it was raw. Like something in me just made that connection to an animal, and whenever I did, I was just go, ooh, no. So whenever I ate meat, it would have to be really like packaged and like detached from what it used to be. I could eat the chicken breast or something that just didn't look. But if you put a whole chicken in front of me, I would just cry. So one day I was watching Friends and like cleaning my room or something, and somebody says something about meat, and Phoebe goes like, ugh. And I just stopped and I looked at my computer and I went, wait, that's how I feel. Phoebe's a vegetarian, so maybe I'm a vegetarian. I think I'm a vegetarian. And I went to dinner at my mom's house that night and I said, Mom, I think I'm a vegetarian. And I stopped eating meat after that. So
that's interesting.
To me, that was an upgrade in life because it made everything easier.
Yeah. It sounds like it wasn't really a conscious choice to deprive yourself of something. It was quite the opposite.
Exactly. I just never kind of had thought of it as an option. I don't know why. It just wasn't really in my environment maybe before that. Like no one in my family was a vegetarian. I never really kind of thought about it in that way. Like it literally just clicked for me. It was like a giant aha moment. But then now I'm actually like going more and more vegan, like, but it's a really slow process for me. I go back and forth, but most of what I cook is vegan, like 90%. And like more and more little dairy things are going out of my diet, and it's happening very slowly, but I like it because I had this quote thrown at me the other day, which fucked me up, which was, what are your values worth if they don't cost any sacrifice? If they don't require anything from you. And I'd kind of given myself a little bit of a free pass, like, well, I haven't eaten meat. And it's been fine. But, I feel all of these things about this industry, and I know all of these things about this industry, about how unsustainable it is. And so, yeah, I'm battling with that. And the question, I went, why haven't I just gone vegan already? Like, maybe I just should. But no, it's happening. It's happening at a nice rate. And I like that it's becoming easier. That's what I think is key in all of this. I think sustainability needs to become the norm. It needs to become easier for everyone, because everyone's lazy and everyone's busy. And it's a lot to change your whole lifestyle and what you're used to. And just go to the grocery store and get whatever you're used to getting. I like that it's becoming easier, but I would like more.
Yeah. But how do you feel or how do you feel about doing that in Iceland? And do you have a comparison having lived abroad?
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Paris, which is not the most vegan-friendly place in the world. And Prague as well, which was actually better. They had like a bunch of like veggie restaurants, and it was really nice. I think of all of these places, for me, it's the easiest to be vegetarian in Iceland. But I think that also just has something to do with me knowing my way around here and like being in with like the Vegan Iceland community. And because here I have a base for, you know, where I can go ask questions, and, you know, there's these Facebook groups where you get ideas, and like, whereas when I was living abroad, I was usually, or at least in Paris, I was mostly like the one vegetarian, like me or one other person, you know, so it wasn't as much of a community feeling. So I guess everything just feels a little bit easier if you're not the only one doing it. You know.
What do you think is going to be the last thing or the most difficult thing for you to stop doing in terms of becoming full vegan?
I mean, the fucking cheese.
It's always the cheese, right?
It's always the goddamn cheese. I don't know what's in it, like what heroin it is, but yeah. I mean, that's basically the only reason I'm not vegan. Everything.
That's the most common answer I hear. That's always the last thing that goes.
I'd really love to know what can, like, I don't know. I would really love to know, like, what can conquer that. That would be cool. Or if that's just like the ultimate test of our willpower. Cheese.
Do you have any vegan cheese suggestions?
Not really. I don't really like a lot of the vegan cheeses. I like the ones that I've, you know, like made with nuts that are kind of like the spread cheeses. You know, there's really simple, really nice recipes that you can follow online for that, like herb, cashew cheeses and things like that. I like those because, you know, it's their own thing, you know. Yeah, I think what needs to happen for me and the cheese is the same that needs to happen for maybe a lot of people that like meat but want to like switch over to the meat substitutes, is that you can't be comparing it to the thing that you like, because it's not that thing. And like, you're probably not going to find the substitute for it, but maybe you can find something that is similar and like, you know, works in the same realm. But, you know, it just, you know, I think you need to think of it as another thing. Like, you know, if you're trying some marinated tofu, you can't be comparing it to a steak or, you know, like, oh, this is vegan meat, like, or chicken, because it's not that. It's its own other thing. And like, judge it by that if you think that it's good like that. I think that's what needs to happen for me in vegan cheese.
Yeah.
Or maybe just vegan cheeses, because I feel like those the homemade ones, they go more in that direction of just being its own thing, kind of like a nice nut spread that's, you know, tang to it.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about motivation here, because I think it's important to understand like your full motivation, because like, is it like health, or is it like sustainability, animal welfare? What's your biggest problem with then eating cheese?
With eating cheese, it's like all of the combined, but like for me, it was a lot happened like with like, it was good for me to stop eating dairy products. Like, I felt that in my body. And like, from what I've like the knowledge that I've gathered on dairy, it's just a little bit fucked up to me, like the whole process of it, because we're the only species on Earth that's eating another animal's milk. And we're the only ones doing it past being babies. I mean, it's ridiculous. So it can't be good for you. It's a growth hormone, you know? So I think that whole thing is all fucked up. But then it's like heroin as well. So, you know, I'm just over here with these two worlds, like battling each other. But I think, wait, what was the question?
What's the motivation? Like, is it health or is it animal welfare? Or what's your biggest motivation for it? Not eating cheese.
I think it's like how fucked up the whole situation is. Like, I hate that I take part in that.
Yeah.
When I do. Yeah. I do it less and less, but values worth.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is like a lot of because you have some farms that they offer like organic and like really like ethical treatment of the animals. I think, for example, Icelandic lamb is, for example, like it roams free in the mountains, and that's vastly different to something that is like produced. Yeah, produced in like inside some like just in a warehouse situation. So for some people, that's like a big difference when it comes to the animal welfare, but that obviously doesn't address the health issues of eating red meat and that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm always curious about the motivation for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kind of because I used to think that as well. I've just kind of, I think the longer I've strayed away from eating meat, and like the further that has gone from my reality as like a choice that I make, I can feel like that my attitude towards it has changed. And like by now, what I feel is the reason that I don't want to eat meat because I don't want to kill the animal. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it myself. I can't even hold the meat when it's raw, So I feel if you want to do that, you go and do it, and you work the animal and you do it, because that would be the most sustainable way of eating meat in this world, would it not? Like if you actually just went out, did it, used the entire animal and put in the work for it, and then savored what you got for yourself,
You mean like, for example, in Iceland when they go like hunting for reindeers and
exactly
go on a hunt and kill your own kill your own meal.
Because people have kind of I've gotten the question a lot, like, have you like, what do you think about, like, is this bothering you, or like, is it okay that I do this? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, but it's and it's not just about you. It's just this thing that I think about. It's just I feel like if you're gonna do it, then at least like do it with respect and like know what you're doing.
Yeah. That sounds very fair.
Then I follow my own advice in that, because I don't make the cheese that I'm, No. See, it's easy when it's easy for you.
Yeah, but I think it's important to zoom out and see the big picture here. You have a very healthy diet compared to the average person, at least in the Western world. So it's always important to give yourself credit for that and celebrate the victories, but still keep going. I think, what was it? I think Bruce Lee said, like, happy but never satisfied, and I think that's a good philosophy.
It's true.
Okay, I wanted to ask you also about like, what is your first memory of making this conscious, sustainable choice? Any sustainable choice?
Yeah. Like the memory that popped to my head, I don't know if it's actually the first one, but the memory that popped to my head was when I had just heard about how H&M has these factories with people working for shit money to make these t-shirts that then they sell for like such little money. And this was a few years ago, and back then, like, Icelandic people, and like they probably still do, but they used to go to like H&M and just buy up the entire store and come back to Iceland and be so happy because it was like so cheap, but it looked really nice.
Yeah, you mean like they would go on like these shopping trips to
like Denmark,
to the UK or Denmark,
UK, yeah, exactly. Right, because we didn't have H&M in Iceland. We do know. So I just read about this and I thought it was horrible. And I was like, this is horrible. I'm never going to shop in H&M ever again. And I made that like really big choice. And then I went to the UK actually with like a few months after this. And this is embarrassing. I was walking down like Oxford Street and I see Primark, which I'd never seen before. I didn't know what it was. I walk into the store and I'm amazed and I go, wow, this is all so great. And I just fill up my shopping cart and I had to buy another suitcase in there to like take all this shit that I bought and bring it home with me. So then I go outside this door and I'm putting all the things from the bag inside my new suitcase. And I look up and I see Primark. It's in actually like there's another store right next to it and it's an H&M. And they're both like 7 stories. And I'm just seeing people go in and out and up and down the staircases. And it's just copy paste of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to cry because I felt like an idiot. But from that moment on, I have primarily shopped secondhand for any clothing that I've bought. Yeah, for years, except for like underwear. And within those like purchases, I'm also thinking more sustainably, and I'm like looking at which fabrics I'm buying and from which like stores and vendors and where they're getting their fabrics from and all of that. So yeah, that it was nice. I felt like an idiot, but it made me go, okay, like I got a bigger picture, you know. I thought it was just H&M.
Yeah, exactly. And it reminds me of a line that I heard. It's like caring is being a hypocrite, and it kind of you can't. If you're going to care about something, you always burst yourself, kind of being a hypocrite. So I think it's just important to give yourself a break and just at least you're aware of it, and that's a step in the right direction. So it's good to hear that you that you had such a strong moment with it, where it really got hammered in rather than only being H&M.
Insane, because it was huge as well, and it's just like you could just see, like I could finally see this giant problem of this like consumerism, and it just hit me like right across the face, because it was just people coming in and out with bags and bags and bags and bags. Makes no sense in no universe. That makes sense for anyone needing it. Like, I think, and also another line that always comes to mind is like when you think about like these low prices, like if you're not paying for it, who is paying for it? And I think that's always a good reminder when buying any product, that if you're buying a shirt for 1 or 2 euros, then maybe you should ask yourself, like, really, does that make sense? And do I feel comfortable buying this? And it's also important to keep in mind that every time we buy something, we are actually casting a vote. We're casting a vote for a system that we're voting for with our money. So we do have a lot of power as consumers, not only as voters in a democracy. So it's really, and it's nice to hear that. Like it's nice to hear your transition and like how do you came to your situation. And I also happen to know that you also make your own clothes. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, I do. I was just about to say that when you said like you think about the 1 or 2 euro shirt, I've actually put that into, because I sew and I know how to make things, is that would I get paid that much to make this for anybody? And if the answer is hell no, then hell no, I would not make a shirt if somebody said I'll give you 2 euros.
Let's zoom out on this and just really think about it. Like, how much would you charge for Like, in order for it to make sense, how much would you have to charge for the sweaters and the dresses that you've made?
I mean, at least like 30, 40, 50,000 Icelandic. I don't know what that is.
So that's about $200 to $300 or so.
Yeah.
So that's
like piece of clothing, like, cause just time-wise.
Yeah.
Just the time that goes into like actually doing it and making it nicely is.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, you would be able to scale that up with some kind of machinery, but but you would never be able to scale it up to jack the price down to $1 or $2 a shirt. So
never less than $100, like just given like the fabric materials and everything that you would need to do.
Assuming that you're buying the stock in Iceland, which is then
which is not the best place to do so, but but that's right.
And then
I make clothing as well, and I love it. It's really nice. Because I don't go now impulsively to buy things that I see and I think are cool and that I like, because I still do like clothes a lot. And I have a lot of them. They're just all secondhand, and like then I sell them on when I change up my closet, and it's kind of like a good little circular thing. But there's a lot of clothing in there. No minimalist there. But yeah, so if I see something that I like or just think of something that I like, I have the power to make it, and that's awesome. That's a really because that also it gives you the appreciation for it, I knitted a tracksuit during the first wave of COVID. That's the only time I got time off work, because nobody knew what was up then. So it was like a month and a half when I didn't work. So I had nothing better to do really, because nobody was going out. So I just watched like RuPaul's Drag Race at home, and I knitted myself pants and a shirt. And it was so awesome because I was teaching myself new skills. Like I knew how to knit, but I didn't know that I knew how to knit that much, I didn't know that I knew how to make pockets and pants, and so that was really cool. And it's a nice, I love it. I love those like pieces of clothing so much because of the time and effort that went into them, and we just spent a lot of time together, like me and this piece of thread that I was able to turn into pants, and it's awesome. It's really,
so it sounds like a bit of a hobby for you.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's like what I like to do when I watch TV, because I don't like to watch TV. But it's like, it's nice because then when you watch shit TV and you need to do sometimes, you can kind of shut your brain off, but then you have you can actually see the progress of your time. You can see, I actually made this whole sleeve, even though this film was shit, it wasn't all to waste. And it's a nice, meditative thing. Nice to do something with your hands, at least for me.
Yeah. What would you recommend for any of the viewers that would want to take up making their own clothes? What's the first piece of item to make yourself?
My recommendation would be to make something that you want to wear, whatever the fuck that may be, because it is not so difficult. Because if you start to make like a scarf or a headband or something that you don't want to wear and it's going to look ugly, you're not going to want to finish it and you're not going to want to do it. What I did when I started to sew clothes is I used to take old clothes that I had and they, had stains on them or were ruined basically, but I liked the way they looked on me. I would just take those apart and, because then at the seams, because then you have the patterns. And then, you can figure out how it goes back together. It's not, it just takes a little bit of determination.
Yeah.
can figure it out. There's so many people that go, oh, like, I don't know how to do this, but literally it's so simple. Like sewing is only like, you have to Google like the one thing that you do, and then you just continue doing that. With knitting, with everything. It's just, what do you do? Okay, I do it like this. And then you just go on, just repeat forever.
Yeah. What's your primary method?
I like knitting.
Yeah.
That's like I sew when I really want something, that I can't knit, or like that I really want to wear. That's when I sew. If I saw something or thought of something, or like need a new dress or something like that, that's when I sew. But for like meditative and just kind of every night purposes, I like knitting.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun hobby.
Yeah, it is. It's nice.
And next I want to bring up like work, because it's always interesting to think about the industry that you work within, and by that I mean just for any person, like what am I doing when I go to my job, and what is the impact of the job that I do. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about like how do you feel about the film industry, and what would be your suggestions or ideas for making it better when it comes to sustainability?
Well, I feel that the film industry is a huge power, really, because at least from what it looks like to me, a very large part of the population consumes entertainment through film and television, and the language that we put forth in films, and what people perceive from them is basically, to me, like one of the biggest schools that adults go to kind of unknowingly. Because we learn things that are put in front of us. So for example, with the kind of feminist movement that's been happening now within the film industry, with giving women more voices and bigger roles that have value, is because the film industry can impact the viewers. It matters what we put in this film, because the viewer is going to view it, and it's going to be somehow a part of their base reality. So I feel like, and what I've been thinking of and wanting to develop is this kind of consciousness about sustainability, and just overall about what type of message is being relayed.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to it would be interesting to see stories that put sustainability, for example, into a light, or maybe even just incorporate some aspects of living sustainably into characters that maybe have nothing to do with it. So I think that could be really interesting, like looking at how it could be incorporated into stories to then seep out into the world, hopefully. But then again, like also just more consciousness within the industry, which I feel like is happening, but kind of ever so slowly, like trickling, little things that are changing on set and things like that. But it's not a great industry when you look at, you have a lot of like travel and stuff involved that's not very sustainable. Mm-hmm. So I also think that could be, if it was a more conscious effort on like all of the departments within the film industry, all from writing to the last editing bits and showing it. I think it could be really cool if each department went in and checked what they could do, and then everyone would have a meeting to change things up a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, it does come to mind this. I think the technical term is planet placement. That's the what they talk about when you want to incorporate like sustainability and environmental issues.
Call it planet placement? That's a thing. That's so cool.
Yeah. So then, what you experienced with Phoebe and being a vegetarian when you were watching Friends, is arguably maybe conscious or unconscious planet placement at the time.
Right.
But I would assume that they definitely felt good about making her a vegetarian, sending out that kind of a message. It did at least reach you, so that's one point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then I do know that BAFTA, they do have a program around, they call it Albert, and they have this system where they will give the films or any production, they will give them a rating. I think it's like a 3-star rating. So if you get 3 stars, that's the highest rating that you will get. And this has started to impact how projects are financed. And when you apply for grants at film funds, this is something that is in the discussion, that you will need to have some kind of a sustainability certification for your production in order to get the grant. So that's definitely something that is that's a positive movement within the industry. But how do you feel about being on set and like how it goes on set, the food and the trash?
I mean, it's very different between different productions, I will say. But it's, you just, at some points you try to just close your eyes and just go, it's not my responsibility, which I think a lot of people are probably doing, because this industry does produce an amazing amount of trash sometimes. But that's like mostly around the food and the catering. So I feel like that has been changing in the past few years. It's more like, you bring your own water bottle and, or your own coffee mug, and so you're not using 17. But yeah, I think I would like to explore more things like filming locations and things like that. I heard of this method once of filming everything within a 2-kilometer radius.
Kind of eating locally, that you only eat what is produced in your neighborhood, and you only film what is available in your neighborhood.
Kind of. Maybe not as an all-out rule, but maybe just as a base thought, how can we tell a good story? Is this necessary for this and this, or can I make it here? And just, because I also think that these things are not horrible restraints. I think good art is made in a restricted environment where you have to think outside of the box, and where you have to kind of be clever to convey whatever messages it is that you want to convey. So I think, it's good restraints. It's just a little bit of hurdles that you have to go through, which is just healthy. And I would honestly think that it would create even more interesting and dynamic stories, just because you had to put more effort into it.
Yeah. And do you think there's a tendency to not accept the responsibility within the film industry?
Yeah, probably. I don't know really. No. No, I'm not sure. I don't think that I have the answer to that question.
No. I think it might be easy to. I think it might be easy to brush it off, because every time you start a new project, you kind of have to start like a whole new company, and it's because you're always working with freelancers, and I think that's not going to be, unfortunately, the first thing that you're thinking about, like the environmental impact of the production, because it's difficult enough to put it together in the first place. Because a lot of the time, the people that are the most vocal are the people that are in the spotlight, and those would be the stars, the actors and the directors, who are actually, they have a message, and their films are actually touching on this. And then we come to this, like, caring as being a hypocrite, that like you're the whole film that you made, like what is the carbon footprint of the film that you just made? I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, he did put together a team and like investigate how bad the Hollywood productions actually are, and the results were really shocking. And
like, not terrible or horrible?
They were really horrible. Like, it was because people kind of assume, like, yeah,
a glimpse of hope for them there, and like for just 1 second I was like, wait, is it just all studio things and it's just really not that? Okay.
It is. The worst things are, of course, like these action blockbusters, because they kind of go all over the world. They just select. They're really not bound by scarcity at all. They will just choose, like, what's the most epic, great location that we can find, and they'll take it, as long as it's not ridiculously expensive. An example that comes to mind is when they were shooting in Djúpavík in Iceland for, I think it was Justice League. And then I think it was something like a month of preparation to do, I think, 4 days of shooting. And it was only a few minutes of screen time. But when you really look into like what was going on, like the discussion was like, are we going to drive? I think it was something like 100 caravans or like mobile homes in there and like build this little village, everything run on diesel generators, because there wasn't like the proper infrastructure to really just create like a new town.
Yeah.
And they were also looking at the option of just having a cruise ship just docked or like just like place an anchor and then just shuttle the people to shore, like on these little boats. So and then you really start to think like, okay, this is where the mess comes from, because it's not easy for the audience to realize like, wait, what is so dirty about this, or where do all of the carbon emissions come from? But when you have to feed like 200 or maybe 300 people that are part of the film crew, and you have to fly like let's say a third of them from the US to Iceland, and then you have maybe 100 or 200 people working like on the Icelandic crew, and they're all driving from Reykjavik to somewhere in the north or northwest, and into the rural parts of Iceland. So then that's that's where that comes from, and it's easy to not see it at first glance.
I think it would just, because it's always this thing of like, it's like these big things, like, like the oil companies, they're the reason, and and that's actually in relation to like that thought where I heard that quote of like, what are your values worth if there's no if they don't require sacrifice. Like these big films and these like giant, like this, what was it, Justice League, or because you can only change yourself, and that's why I like to think of it in this way, like, how am I going to behave at my work and my job? So when I come up to the set as an actress, I choose a vegan meal. I bring my own coffee mug and I like look out for it, and my own water bottle. I try to choose from the catering the stuff that, is just doesn't have a lot of plastic involved with it and things like that. Like I try to make these conscious choices. Whereas as also when I make films, my own films, I also want to have these conscious choices there. And I just want to create this baseline of this being a normal thing that I think about when I am creating. Like, okay, so where are we? Where is the sustainability here? Like, what can your department do to do that? Your department. Because it would be so cool if that was a more normal conversation. But I can't normalize it without just starting to do that. And it's been cool, when I do it, when I just have the conversation, I just wonder and think about like, how can we do this more sustainably? Usually people take it really well and they're like, oh, actually, that,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I remember a story from the UK in terms of film production. Then they were looking at renting cars for the production assistants and the runners and the drivers. So they approached the car rental and said, like, yeah, we really need to be more sustainable. So we really need electric cars. And the rental place, they said, yeah, we don't have any rental cars. We have some hybrids, and it doesn't make sense for us to do rent like electric cars. And if I remember correctly, the production like just threatened to go somewhere else. It said like either you fix this or we go somewhere else. And they actually had the power to actually make a change, because they did compromise and they said, okay, like we will just order more hybrids. So I mean, that's at least like a positive compromise. And you would maybe think that the production would have to like maybe pay like a higher rate and all of that, and it would cost them more money and just create unnecessary problems. But it actually turned out to be really great in a lot of areas, because they were mostly doing driving around, I think, London and in that area. And because their staff had these hybrid cars, they were able to enter parts of London that you couldn't with like a diesel or a gasoline engine.
Nice.
And it was also cheaper to run because there was less gas. But of course, I think it was plug-in hybrids, so they would then charge them. So there's some cost that goes against it. And then one of the most unexpected things that were beneficial was sound recordings, because you didn't have this combustion engine just screaming in the front of the car when you were recording dialogue in the cars. So it's nice to hear these stories where you have like these accidental or unforeseen benefits of pushing for something new. And exactly. I think it's a brilliant example of pushing for something, reaping a benefit.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about the film industry. Now I want to talk a little bit about the future, and because I guess first of all, like, do you have climate anxiety?
Like a little bit, but not, not too much, because there's nothing that anxiety will give me that's actually beneficial to me. If everything's going to go to shit, it's going to go to shit, and I'll probably be there. I won't change it by being anxious over it now. Like I said, I feel I do make conscious choices in my life and in my purchases, and that's about the most I can do. I can also have a conversation with you, where people might listen to it. I can have conversations with people in my life. But if I'm just being anxious about things going to shit, I probably won't be having rational, calm conversations that will actually make any like contributing good change. So yeah, I'm a little bit anxious. I have this tiny little bad, horrible fear that everything's going to go to shit much like sooner than we would like it to. But yeah, what's that going to do good for anybody?
Sounds like you're not losing sleep.
No, yeah. I'm not.
All right. I think that really settles it, that you're not suffering from climate anxiety. And I think a lot of people would be happy to have the choice, because for myself, I don't suffer from climate anxiety, and I'm thankful for that. But a little bit like a view on the future. Like, how do you see the future? How will things progress in the future in the mind of Telma?
What I see is just these things that we have today, just what's it called? Accumulating or getting bigger. Because we have a lot of refugees going around the world right now. I think the most since there was a lot of wars.
Are you then talking about climate refugees, or?
Yeah, but just overall refugees right now, because there are refugees from war as well. But like climate refugees is a new thing that has been happening more and more. And I think the more that happens, the more like all of these Western civilizations that are so afraid of different cultures and people, and you know, this is all just kind of shaking and stirring. And I'm scared that people will be more scared than rational, because if people are scared, then it's going to like increase division. And I think that is the only way that we cannot beat this, you know, because in the divided, everyone just goes in hordes, and they just take everything for themselves. I'm thinking very big picture stuff here, but I think with like all of these little things that we're seeing in the world today, there's more division, there's more like hatred and hateful speech is being allowed to just, come out of the mouths of presidents. And I think all of these things will be our downfall, because we are talking about issues, and we could be, like actual issues that are actually like the fact that humans are killing themselves on this earth. Because I think that is also a little bit of it doesn't make sense when we say we're killing the planet. We're not. Mama Earth will survive. It's just, will it be sustainable for us? Will we be able to live here when we fucked up all of our water supply and there's no air to breathe? No, we won't. And probably 1,000 other species will die with us, but like not Mama Earth. She will be fine, So I think that I'm scared a little bit that we're going to be too busy fighting amongst each other to do anything and make any change. Because when people are fighting, they're just mad, and they're not thinking rationally, and they're not thinking about coming together, especially with people that they don't know or understand. So that's my grim view on the future, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you see as a solution in this problem that you described?
I think like media has a lot to do with it. I think the way that I think it's scary, for example, how big Facebook and Google are these times, because they are more giant than a lot of nations, and they have a lot of power. And I think it's really scary because it's like the internet is just this like Wild West where there's not really any laws or like it's difficult. You can read articles about whatever the fuck you want to read an article about, and you can reference it like whatever you want to find.
Mm-hmm.
To suggest your worldview, you can.
Yeah.
That's scary. So I think I would like there to be some sort of I don't know, some sort of place where it's just like fact check, like somewhere that's just dedicated to giving you like pure, actual news, and which would be worldwide. I think that would be something very beneficial, like United Nations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what do you then think, for example, of? I mean, Twitter has done something in that direction where they've said like read on the facts. Like if somebody is talking about COVID or vaccinations or something, it flags and says like read the truth. Or I'm not. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what it is. How do you feel about that?
I think it's awesome. I think it's really important. That there is this reminder, because it's just easy to take it as truth, whatever is in front of you, and a lot of people are doing it. So I think it's good. I also think it's good when like when they banned Trump, a lot of people have an issue with that. It's like it's limiting freedom of speech and yada, yada, yada. But I just think that, as soon as it's becoming harmful, to a bunch of other people, then it's just not, we don't need to give space for all of this harmful shit, these giant companies that are making so much money off of really unsustainable methods. And they're purely only doing it, like they keep doing it in like the shadows of being really intertwined with governments all over the world. And it's all fucked, like money, basically root of all evil. But we don't have to give space to these people. Like it's a choice that is being made because it's not a conscious one. Yeah. It's because it's done in the shadows. And that's what I mean about like information, and real information needs to be available. I think governments should all be completely transparent. Or par exemple, that just because like it should just be that way, because that would mean that people couldn't act the way that they do.
Do you have an example of a government that you think is doing a good job?
No, like considering like sustainability. No, I think Finland.
No, I don't mean sustainability. I mean like this specific overall thing that you're talking about with transparency and I guess corruption would be interpreting what you said.
No, I think I think I don't really know about like who isn't doing good. I just know that there's a lot of corruption in Iceland, because that's my close environment and what I see all the time. But no, I've heard good things about Finland also. But no, I'm not too involved.
Yeah. Is there any idea that you have, however difficult to implement, some form of a government setup that would work in your head?
Oof.
Just a simple question.
Yeah, transparent. No, like that's what I honestly believe, and have like voted for in the last few years is just transparency.
Yeah.
Complete transparency in the government, and a more interactive government than the voting every 4 years. I like these places online where parties allow people to comment and give suggestions and help to create what they are working with, and like this ever conversation going back and forth. Because I feel like for a democracy and a democratic government to work, it needs to be this constant participation of all of the civilians within it, because otherwise it's only a democracy every 4 years. You know.
Yeah. How often would you like to be voting on things?
I mean, I could do it like once a month. Once a month, I could get an email and be like, yeah, like, what do you think about this and this and this? Even like if there was like an introductional video, like this is the issue that we're talking about. Here are some like facts, like, you know, they would need to set it up so that it would be easy. It should like come on an app on your phone and it'd be like, okay, so here's the main argument for this. Here's the main argument like against this. Here you can get more information. Do you want to put your opinion on this? If you do, here you can do that. And but it would be so much work.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, it's true. There are some solutions that have been talked about in terms of AI. And that's, for example, that you would have your own artificial intelligence that knows you maybe even better than you know yourself. And then that would work as a personal assistant to read every proposal that is being brought forward to the legislator. And then instead of us voting for instead of us voting politicians that do the final vote, we would more vote like politicians to push some kind of an agenda, and then the agenda is then brought again to the voters, and then the AI will interpret or really do the research for you. It will boil it down to something that you really do understand, and maybe even like you could set it so that the AI will cast the vote for you, or like give it to you as a final approval and say, for example, this is what's being voted on. This is what I think you would vote. This is why I think you would vote like that. And then you just sign like, yeah, okay, like that sounds really reasonable. Like I agree with that. And then
it wouldn't be so hard. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because I trust that more than people. I don't fucking trust people. You can corrupt people. That's no problem.
Yeah.
You know? And it's so easy, especially like here in a small country, just like you only have to like talk to your cousin in the other department. And it's fine. Like we're all stealing money from the government. But AI, like can I corrupt? What would I need to corrupt? No, I can't corrupt AI. Not if it's programmed to not be corrupted.
Well, that's. I think there are some schools of thought when it comes to that. Like who's writing the AI? What is the baseline for the AI? Is the AI? Is it aiming for peace? Is it aiming for saving the planet? Is it aiming for like above anything else, like find your will and implement your will into the vote? And then there's of course the question of who's writing the AI to begin with.
Yeah.
And then like
because that's again people that I don't trust.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I bring that up, because AI doesn't come naturally. Like we didn't find it in nature. It is a mirror on humanity. So That's why a lot of people talk about the importance of ethics immediately, like in the early stages of the development of artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Because today it's a little bit questionable that we're using AI for surveillance and for marketing. And yeah, I mean, that's if that's the main things that AI is being used for, then the AI is then gonna, like, that it breeds in that environment. Yeah. So that's something that people have pointed out, that it needs to be like decentralized, meaning that there needs to be some kind of a central platform where people can really kind of bring in their thoughts and kind of work on an AI that can be monitored, so that it's not only like military purposes. Like Google has an AI, and then like the Chinese military has an AI, the US military has an AI, Facebook has an AI to like optimize the marketing, and then Google would also have like an AI to like market optimization. Mm-hmm. And then you have like NSA and other institutions like that are using AI for surveillance. Mm-hmm. So then that's why it's important to talk about this ethics of the AI. But in terms of having your own personal AI to read all of the suggestions and vote for you, that's sounds really good. But there's obviously some red flags there that have to be addressed.
Yeah, that's true. But like, in my opinion, there's a lot of red flags with the system we have already. So
yeah,
why not look into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about the future with because there's obviously different timeframes to think about. The next 10 years, and then I think it's not too difficult to predict like what's going to be happening in the next 10 years, because it's not like we're going to be like all of a sudden moving between solar systems or anything like that. That's nothing that happens within 10 years. Mm-hmm. How do you see it developing in terms of just consciousness, like people being more conscious about sustainability and corporations moving in a direction, corporations and governments moving in a direction to sustainability? How do you feel about this?
Well, I love it, like, because it's making it easier for the basic consumer to be more sustainable when governments do it and they change their framework to make it easier for sustainable like methods and people to get through. And when corporations do it, the scary part is that, you know, like there's this greenwashing as well that's been happening, which, you know, is something that, you know, it's just a new thing that I think we need to look out for. Just like a new, like a new little problem that's popped up, which of course is going to pop up with like changing any change, you know, there's going to be new issues that you encounter. But I think...
Can you explain greenwashing just for anyone who might not know what that is?
Yeah, just like because you have a lot of these corporations or you have these things that maybe like require you to say, oh, this is done in a sustainable way. And they will put that on the packages, but really not be following any sort of any, you know, like won't actually show. And when you actually look into it, it's all kind of like shadow, and it's just like a mark, you know.
Yeah, like something that isn't, for example, just like put it, like use green colors on the packaging only to kind of make people unconsciously choose it, thinking that it's a greener product. And
exactly, and you know, like in some cases, it's just, you know, they can just put things on the you know, like things that look like the logos that actually are the sustainability ones, like the swan and the things like that. But I think with that, it's scary, and it's like exactly like for me, it's just like I've only kind of heard in passing, and you know, it's like, oh, you need to look out for whether it's it's actually this, or it's just been like greenwashed to make you think that you're buying a sustainable product. Which is interesting. There's always new problems to encounter in this world and find solutions. But I think it's really cool. Like what's been happening now, for example, in Iceland, is that we have like a vegan grocery store, and we have a few like sustainable living stores where you can go and you can buy shampoo bars and these like things to wash your dishes, which are made out of just wood and metals instead of the plastic ones. And you can choose, like I now have, I choose to go to that store first if I need something for my house, instead of picking it up from other big supermarkets. And it's usually like really good quality because it's small stores. It's hand selected items that are coming from like, and they've really done all the research for me, so I can research the store and I can go, oh, this is what your guys are doing. And I can see the brands that they're selling. And then I can have it just as easy as going into any other store. I just choose to go into that one and I can buy those things. And they also have these places now inside some of these sustainable stores where you can like fill up on laundry detergent and like even grains and stuff like that, like nuts and things. So you don't need to buy them packaged. I think with like governments making change, businesses will make change. And like that will trickle down to the consumer, like actually having these options of like being able to go into a sustainable store. That didn't exist in Iceland a few years ago. It's only come now because of people that were going all around and doing all the difficult things, like not having the one place to go,
I think we've also seen it doesn't happen automatically. There is a push from the consumer that creates a need for a store like that. And we've seen, for example, grocery stores in Iceland, they've really started to reduce their packaging because people showed up, tore off the packaging and left it at the register just to say like this is your waste. I'm not gonna bring this home with me only to have to bring it to the garbage myself. So I think that's like this healthy mix of everything that then creates progress. And how do you see, for example, like the pricing of it is obviously we know that like anyone who really tries to like quote unquote do the right thing knows that if you're there early before the masses come before anything gets mass produced, it's quite pricey. For example, the other day I did buy a sponge that was like zero plastic and like minimum amount of packaging. And I was looking at this sponge next to it. It was then plastic, and it was like the 10 sold together and in a plastic wrap. And the one that I got was 60 times more expensive than the other ones. So do you have any stories like that where you bought something and you thought, oof, like that's like I'm gonna buy it, but this is a hefty price?
Yeah. Like yes and no, because it's both. With making more conscious choices, I buy less, which means I have more money. Like I'm not spending it because I'm not like, because when you buy the 10 pack, you don't give a shit about any one of the ones in there. They just, you use them, you throw them away. It's not something that's in your life or that you have any care for, or, so I feel like it's, it costs more. But also, like for example, my brush that I have now to like wash my pans and my pots and things. It's like one of those that you can take off the head and buy a new head. And, so you don't have to buy the whole shaft all the time. I bought like 3 of the heads when I first bought this thing. But the thing is, because I don't know, because it costs a lot, and because I'm like, oh, I only have 2 more, I take so much better care. I actually wash my brush.
Yeah.
Like after I wash the pot, I actually do that because I want it to last me longer. I want it to look nice because it looks nice. Like it's nice in my kitchen. It's not this like ugly red shit that I grabbed because I needed it at that exact moment. No, I figured out like how to deal with my life until I went to this like nice store where I got it for more money. And then I've had it since then and like took it with me when I moved. And it's that's the type of stuff that you would have thrown away when you moved, but not anymore. So I think it's just, you're not buying the same thing. Like the inexpensive plastic sponges versus this other sponge, you're probably going to have that for a longer amount of time because you're going to like be using it differently. And I think that is what we need to like help like shift in people's heads, is that like this thing of like we must have everything now, because it's we don't. If we want something, it's fine to want it for a sec and like that you get it a little bit later, and it's probably gonna make you realize whether or not you actually want it if you need to think about it for a second, or whether you actually need it. And then once you get it, you're gonna appreciate it so much more. So I think that's just like, a nice worldview that more people could have.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to end this. I think, I completely agree with you. I think that's just to have more respect for the things that you own and not just buy cheap stuff.
Also, when you're buying this stuff, because your money is your time. And time is the only thing that you will never either have enough of or get back. So when you are giving your time away for that shitty, like plastic, whatever the fuck that you needed that moment, it's actually you're gambling away your time. You're giving away your actual minutes on this earth for some crap that you threw in the trash 2 days later. You spent an hour working somewhere for that. It's like that also is nice. I don't know, something that was good for me.
Yeah. And I think it's also, as we mentioned earlier, just think of it as like, first of all, you're buying a quality product that's probably going to last longer and you will treat it with more respect. And secondly, and maybe even more important, is you are casting a vote for the future that you want. Like that is a system that you're willing to participate in. You're voting for that solution and that company.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's good to be able to take pride in something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Telma, it's been great. Great first show. I knew it wasn't going to be a problem talking to you because we always talk for hours and hours when we need to. So you're really the perfect first guest to have on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Any final words?
No. Make conscious choices, y'all.
I'll quote you on that. Okay. Thanks for being on the show, Telma. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope people learned something. And say goodbye, Telma. And I will wave goodbye to the camera. See you on the next show.
Yeah.